Welcome to the Leafy podcast, helping real estate investors and entrepreneurs grow. Say hello to your hosts, Jennifer Gligoric and Brian Price, founders of Leafy Legal Services, teaching you how to protect your assets, grow your business, and manage your wealth. Let's start the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leafy Podcast. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm Tammy, the podcast manager, and on the line with me, I've got CEO and COO of Leafy Legal Services, Brian Price and Jennifer Gligoric, and they have an amazing guest for us, of course, today. So I will go ahead and hand it over to them so that they can get us started.
Well, today's guest might get completely cannibalized by our CEO, Brian, because he, like Brian, is an engineer by schooling, and he left being an engineer to become a real estate investor in the San Francisco Bay Area. He focused on single-family renovations as well as out-of-state investments in Jacksonville, Florida, as well as doing flips. He's made a lot of money. He's lost a lot of money. And now he dedicates a lot of his time to educating other investors, giving them the knowledge that he's gained over the years and his tips and tricks, as well as talking to other experts. He is the host of the Everything Real Estate Investing Show, and we could not be more excited to have him. So we want to welcome Sean Pan to the show. Welcome, Sean.
Welcome, Sean.
Thank you for having me on your show, guys.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm always big on, the engineer turned, I always call myself a recovering engineer. And so, we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but I always like to hear the stories because it's always pretty unique. There's similarities, but it's also unique at the same time. So why don't you give a little bit of background of how you became an engineer, then why did you transition into real estate investment?
Sure, Brian. So, coming out of high school, typically you go into college with a major, right? You have to check those boxes. And at the time I was pretty good at math and physics, and it just kind of made sense that I would go into engineering. So I got into UCLA. I studied electrical engineering. I was there for a couple of years, got my master's degree as well. And then I actually got an internship to work at Boeing as a defense contractor. So for a long time, I was working on satellites for the government. And that was really interesting. You get to work on these billion-dollar projects that go into space. But then after a couple of years, I realized that you can be constrained in this corporate environment. I was looking around at my coworkers who were, 30 years older than me, my dad's age, and they weren't really satisfied with their life. And at the time, I was in my early 20s, so I was stumbling upon books. I used to hate reading when I was younger, but as you get older, you start to enjoy it more. You read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad or The 4-Hour Workweek, and you get inspired. And I thought, how can I escape this reality, which is to be an engineer, unhappy and unsatisfied, into doing something that I really enjoy and that I can be proud of? And I actually tried several different businesses, one of which is actually selling selfie sticks on Amazon. That didn't actually go very well. But eventually I stumbled onto real estate and real estate investing, more so in the buy and hold strategy. And, started consuming content like Bigger Pockets. I started going to different meetup groups. And then after being around this network of people, eventually you become like them and you start investing in real estate.
Well, that's a great story. And that really is very similar to how most people, they do it. They just, something happens, it's their aha moment, or it's a pain point. Some people it's, God, I just wish I could spend more time with the kids. They just see time going, and then they're looking at the investment of their heart and soul into something else that they're not really aligned with. It's a career, but it's not what they're aligned with. And the workplace is shifting and everything else. So it's really amazing you've done what you've done. Now you talk about meetups. You do meetups right now there in the San Francisco Bay Area, right? They're real, you liking that?
That's correct. Yeah, so I do meetups twice a month in the Bay Area. So if you guys are in the Bay Area, check out meetup.com/everythingrei. We meet up in San Jose. So one format is a casual networking mixer type. We meet out in a little bar, and there's no agenda. Just talk to people, shake hands, become friends. And the other event is on the last Tuesday of every month, but that's a more formalized method where we have a presenter come through, talk for an hour and a half. And I think it's a good balance to have both. You want the free one so people can just come through and meet other people in the area. And you also want, a nicer presentation style to actually learn once a month.
Cool.
Yeah, I can tell you. Go ahead.
Oh,
right.
Is that something that you developed over time, or is that something you started from the beginning?
So when I first started getting into real estate investing, one of the big things that everyone recommended is to join your local REIA, so Real Estate Investment Organization or Association. We don't have an official REIA here in the Bay Area, but there are a ton of meetup groups, and most of them are all flipper based. So when I first got started, obviously I was attending. When you don't have anything, it's very awkward because you can like talk to somebody and they say, "What kind of investing do you do?" And you say, "Oh, I'm an aspiring investor." And then they quickly like shift their gaze and walk away from you, right? So you have to have a way to stand out. And so my way of standing out was volunteering at these meetup groups. And the specific meetup group was the presentation style. But just by being around all these other groups, I found that people wanted both, right? They want the mixer type and they also want the presentation style type. And eventually the person who was running my meetup group, I guess, kind of retired. He sold his meetup to someone else. And so there was like a small void in that in this area. So I decided to pick up and create my own group.
Did you say he sold his meetup?
Yeah, $20,000.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was that popular of a meetup that he that's amazing. I didn't even think you could sell a meetup.
I mean, the email list is pretty big, right? You have over 10,000 people. Yeah, it's good.
No, that is really good. It never even dawned on it, but it stands to reason that once you build a following or anything, there is a value definitely to that. So, so he sold it to someone else, and are they still continuing that meetup?
Yes, they are. But the thing is, they had to find like a new location. Obviously, it's a new host, so it's pretty much like a new meetup. And in our case, like he offered to us, of course, the volunteers, but hey, do you want to borrow me for 20,000? And we were like, we could probably just start our own, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than do it like that, yeah. Huh. Well, that's really interesting because it would be a lot of work to take it over and to redo it. But so, well, I hope he got his money for his investment on it and he realized it was some work with that. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about flipping homes there in the Bay Area, because right now I think in my mind, that would be one of the hardest areas to do home flips in because of just there's so many challenges you guys have, but maybe I'm wrong. So talk to me a little bit about where you are and what you know of flipping there now.
Right. So basically investing in the Bay Area is the same as flipping everywhere else, except your inventory is obviously much, much lower. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very difficult to get a deal. But then once you do, you're looking at, 6 figures plus profit. Even the wholesale deals here are about 6 figures generally. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but they're hard to find, right? So people are sending out, direct mail letters. I know some people are sending out $30,000 worth of direct mail every single month. Mm-hmm. And his average is about $18,000 worth of direct mail to actually get, a closed deal. Wow. Like I said, the closed deal is $100,000. So it works out. Mm-hmm. Basically, you need to have dedication, and it is scary because, you're getting hard money loans on these $1 million properties. Mm-hmm. And then hoping to turn it and sell for 1.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you find that there is a value all the way around for that, even for the buyer of the property? Do you think it's still can be a good buyer's market there as well? Because that's important for, if you're an investor, you want it to be, You
mean in terms of like, does the property sell quickly after they're rehab?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's a feeding frenzy. It was nuts over here up until I'd say mid of 2018. You would have like 10 offers per property and they would close in like 9 days. You have one open house just for fun, Yeah, it was nuts. And they would go like 150, 200K over asking price. Like it's no big deal. Yeah. I mean, you have to understand these people who work here, they're probably pulling in $200,000 per person. Mm-hmm. So if you're a married couple, that's $400,000. And so you can afford, $1.2 million, $1.5 million house relatively easily. The way my friend said it is he was doing flips over, I think in the Southwest, Southeast, Midwest, whatever. He was doing somewhere else. He basically said it's a lot of work, but in the Bay Area, you're doing the same amount of work with just an extra zero in the end. Yeah. So why not just do more work in your backyard? And it's a lot easier versus doing all this extra work out of state.
Yeah, it's harder to get into the market, but it seems to be pretty solidly going up. That's the thing. Even with the 2008, collapse, it didn't really collapse a whole lot in the Bay Area necessarily, just because there's so much money and people are actually able to still afford the houses as they still went up. So it's interesting how an area like that, and a lot of the coast, especially like California coast, is kind of the same way. Is they're almost their own microeconomic area in that they aren't really following necessarily the rules of what's happening in the rest of the U.S.
Absolutely. It's definitely weird here.
Yeah, we hear that from other people that have come on our show too, that there are certain pockets that are scattered all throughout the country, and they seem to just be completely different than the places around them. So education, meeting the right people, networking, going to meetups, getting a good podcast of someone who's giving you valuable information is really important. And it's important. So do you have any advice for any investors who want to cut through what I like to call the noise, cut through the noise out there? There is just so much available, but not all of it is valuable. So for someone who's new thinking about it like you did, what were ways that you used to cut through the noise of just, you go in bigger pockets. There's so much that's out there to be able to hone in on what's going to be an effective strategy for you. So how were you able to do that?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. And, even as a podcast host myself, I've interviewed over 100 people on my show. Mm-hmm. But honestly, the best way to make money in real estate is just go to these meetups. Because my first deal, actually almost all my deals were made from people that I actually know in person. So you just have to show up consistently, as if you're going to church. Every single month, you go in this meetup. And there's like so many meetups in your area, so you're probably going to one meetup a week. And just by like showing up consistently, yeah, eventually you get past the bone, and then that will let you, try, I guess. And then if you have any questions, you have people in your community that you can just ask. It's not just asking some random person on a forum or, relying on a book you read that doesn't cover all the great details, right? I'll give you a quick example. So here in the Bay Area, especially during the hot times, permits were quote unquote optional. Like if you got, if you got permits, obviously it was great, but if everyone knows, if you get permits, then that slows things down. Or you could have inspector come in and say, hey, they might be nitpicky on something else. Well, I think during 2016, the market was so hot that buyers didn't care if you had permits or not. As long as the house looked good and, you said, hey, yeah, you disclosed I didn't get permits. Hey, that's their choice. They bought it anyways. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know, I was asking, I was like, hey, did your contract pull permits or do you do this? And the meetup host would just tell you. Right. But you won't find that in a book. No one's going to say that really on a podcast, on a book. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No one will tell you anything like that. That is interesting. So when you did your first deal, did you use your, savings that you had already had to fund your first deal? Did you use hard money? How did you get skin in the game? Because I know that's one of the first questions that we're asked from new people who call us for any of our services. Do you know of anybody? They're always looking for funding or different ways to get in.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up as a topic because I guess when I first bought my properties in Jacksonville, Florida, they were in a relatively low price point that I could just use traditional financing on it. Not a big deal. But for flips, like I said, we're dealing with $1 million properties. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I don't have $1 million in cash to just buy a house like that. And these homes that you buy as a flip are generally not financeable in a traditional sense because maybe the bathroom's not working or, you have to close quickly. Mm-hmm. So yes, I did use hard money and we typically put down 10%. If you're a new investor, typically you're going to put down between 10 and 15% as a down payment. The hard money lender will cover your construction costs if you ask for it. Of course, there's some downsides to it. I personally don't like to use hard money for the construction costs. I like to just pay it out of pocket. Okay. So I recently started working as a hard money lender myself, working with the people that I use for my loans. So that's why I'm really interested in the whole hard money lending aspect of it as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Why don't we go into that a bit? Why don't you talk a little bit about the process of hard money and how someone could get a hard money loan and just kind of how it's maybe a little different than traditional? Because I think a lot of people probably don't know a whole lot about it. They're probably a little bit scared of it too.
Sure. So for a traditional loan, you have to get a property. You're typically going to put down 20%. And they're also going to look at your income. They're going to look at something called your debt to income ratio. So how much do you owe in terms of loans every month? Include your student loan, your car loan, how much you're going to have to pay every month for this house, and then divide that by your gross income. So let's say you make $120,000 a year, just to make numbers easy. Then your income, quote unquote, is going to be $10,000. That's the denominator. The number on top is whatever your loan's going to be. And that number has to be less than or equal to 43%. So, $4,300 a month doesn't get you enough of a loan to like actually be able to buy these $1 million houses. Mm-hmm. So hard money differs in that because it looks at the property itself. That's why it's called a hard money loan, because it looks at the hard asset. So typically you're able to get down with just 10%, which is great because it allows people like me to buy the property in the first place. And then they don't look at my own personal income. They look at how good is the deal. If there's enough spread between your final sales price and your purchase price, then they'll give you a loan. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, the drawback to hard money is it's not like a 30-year fixed loan. It's usually going to be a 1-year term loan, of course, because you want to sell it fast. They're going to be more expensive than a traditional loan. So I think right now, a 30-year fix is like 3.7 or even 4%. Mm-hmm. Hard money is going to be like 9 or 10%. And you're also going to have to pay 1% or 2% as an origination fee when you get the loan.
Okay.
Yeah. And also hard money loans are able to close relatively quickly. So they can close between 5 and 10 business days, whereas a traditional loan might take between 15 to 30 days.
Yeah. So if someone's going to get a hard money loan, what would be the best way to present to a hard money lender in order to, get the greatest chance of being approved for a loan?
I think experience is a big one. Of course, if you're a new investor, you have no experience. So you would just have to prove that you're able to sell the property at a higher price. So, let's just say that you're getting a property for $800,000 and you're able to sell it for 1.25 mm-hmm. with maybe $100,000 into it. So the lender will say, oh, these numbers are good. Now let's look at your background. So they won't look at how much income you have, but they want to make sure you have enough liquidity, like in stocks or in your bank account, so you can actually make this thing happen. They want to see your skin in the game. So that 10% of the 850. So they obviously want to see the 85 grand in your bank account. They want to see that you're able to make 6 months worth of those interest payments. Mm-hmm. And they want to see that you have enough funds to do the construction. So you said 100 grand. They want to make sure you have 100 grand in your bank, or they'll want to see that you're getting your construction loan with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would it also be good to have like a partner, maybe like a mentor with that experience to start?
I think it's optional. I think my first deal, I didn't have a mentor and it didn't affect me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So do you pitch them as you would with your traditional pitch deck? That you come with your property and you pitch them, or how does that usually go if you wanted to approach somebody? Or let's say you meet them in a meetup and they say they're a hard money lender, they give you their email. How would you do that the correct way, or a way that you, now that you're a hard money lender, would want to see from someone?
Yeah, so typically there's an application form, just like any other loan, especially if they're more established. Mm-hmm. If they're I would say there's a differentiator between something called a hard money lender and a private money lender. Mm-hmm. Private money lenders are generally like angel investors, one single person who just has the funds to do it for you. Mm-hmm. If they're a private money investor, then it's obviously a lot easier because it's just another person. You have to convince them that this is a good deal. Mm-hmm. Or a more established company, it's just a general application form. And of course, there's going to be some kind of appraisal on their end as well, right? They're not just going to take your word for it that you can sell for 1.25. They're going to do either an appraisal or something called a BPO, which is a broker's price opinion, where they kind of do their own research.
Okay. And do you have to pay for that?
It's part of the application process. Okay. So I believe you don't pay unless the deal closes, and that's when everything gets paid out.
Okay. I like asking like I don't know anything, because I know there's a lot of people in our listenership that, they don't know, or they are doing something completely different. Maybe they're house hacking and that's what they know everything about, so they're like experts on the house hacking process, but they're curious about maybe expanding. So if y'all are like, wow, she didn't know that. No, that's why.
Oh, by the way, so talking about house hacking, right? So if it's a single family residence or even a duplex, I believe, then, we can't fund this loan because these are supposed to be business purposes loans and not for you to actually live in them.
Oh, yeah. No, I know that it's different from house hacking. I'm just saying we get people, investors, they get to one thing. So let's say they want a house hack. There are people a lot who that's how they start out, 3 to 5% down. That's what they can afford. They know they've got a year. But then after that, they catch the bug on it and they start, during that time they're learning, they're doing things. Maybe they're getting involved in Airbnb to rent it. Maybe they have a long-term renter. They want to learn more about property managers, and then they're going to want to make a flip to diversify their portfolio. Most people want to diversify. They don't stay in the exact same thing forever, except for maybe multifamily. I see a lot of multifamily people that they're just multifamily all the way. That's what they're going to do for that. So what's the biggest benefit the biggest area that you think right now, in your opinion, that would be untapped for investors that you think is just going to be hot within the next, 2 to 3 years?
It's hard to say because, as we know, the market shifts, especially when flipping properties. So you can obviously make a lot of money flipping houses. You can also get burned with flipping houses. So that being said, if you want to be more conservative and just have more of that long-term wealth generation, I am totally on the buy and hold side, or like you said, the house hacking side. Because my property here in Milpitas, I own it and I house hack it. I rent out every single room to roommates. And if you buy properties, let's say out of state, you can probably get in for under $100,000, put down $20,000 as your down payment, and then just get these rent checks for $1,000 a month. And slowly over time, you can get more and more and more and more, and then that would just give you that passive income to let you do whatever you want in the future.
What do you think is besides just getting the money down, what else do you think is the biggest limiter? And now that you're out there educating people and you've had enough time in the game to see the same people come, and yet they're still watching from the sidelines. What do you think is the biggest limiter for them? Is it just funds, or do you think it's also mindset, or what?
Oh, definitely. It's more mindset than funds, to be honest, because I've been in the area enough to know that if you really have a good deal, the money will come. No big deal, right? If I have a deal in San Jose for $300,000, I don't care. It's going to get bought, right? That's the confidence. There's people who are too scared to pick up a phone to talk to someone. And even getting started with out-of-state rental, $20,000 to us, it's not that big of a deal. So, but they're scared that something could go wrong. So yeah, honestly, I think it's just confidence. You just have to go out there, try it. You can fail, mess up a little bit, but your $20,000 isn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mindset is important. We talk about that a lot. We get other people in here on the show for entrepreneurs and just the idea of limiting beliefs. Don't be afraid. And there's that great book, Who Moved My Cheese? And the saying is, what would you not do if you were not afraid? And when you hit the wall, you're like, man, you'd do anything, right? There'd be so many possibilities that would be open to you, and it very rarely is fear I don't know. I don't want to say rarely fear is a limiting belief. I mean, some fears are good. It's hot. Don't touch it. It's probably going to burn you, stuff like that. But when it comes to ideas about money, it is amazing the ideas people have that are preventing them from realizing their dreams, that they just need to just break outside of that barrier. Brian, I know you had a question, and I was jumped right over you.
Well, I mean, on the same line of that is when you decided to take the jump from being an engineer. I mean, was there something else other than just seeing your coworkers that were 30 years old and miserable, or was there a shift in your mind somehow that really got you to change?
So that was obviously the main one that led me to, down this kind of rabbit hole of entrepreneurship and trying to find my own path. But I guess the big one that actually made me, I guarantee I'll leave the job in 1 or 2 years, is that I did a flip where the taxes on that one deal were higher than my base salary at work. Yeah. So I made so much profit on one deal that I had to pay more taxes than my base salary at work. And I thought,
that's nice.
Man, I'm here for over 40 hours a week, every single week, waking up at 5:30 in the morning. For what?
Yeah.
So after that, I was a pretty useless employee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty big mind shift.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's worried about taxes, but if I heard someone says if you're worried about taxes, you're not making enough money.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have when you're paying 50% in taxes, right?
Exactly. It means that you're making quite a bit more as well. So it's definitely, paying taxes and stuff is something we don't necessarily enjoy, but yeah, if you're an entrepreneur, you're making the money, it's not a big deal at that point because you're making a lot more than you would in your regular job. And so, yeah, I can definitely relate with that. Is, you get into an engineering job is supposed to be this great grand thing, and then you realize, where you are today is 30 years. You'll be just slightly further ahead than you are just starting out. So definitely can relate to that and being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and it's like you said too, like you're also not working on something that is aligned with your goals and your mission in life. Mm-hmm. So, why not take the risk and try something that you genuinely do enjoy?
Yeah, absolutely.
And as far as taxes go, there are so many things that even the government employs that actually really help entrepreneurs, and especially real estate investors. There's still a lot of positivity as far as laws that have been enacted that really help real estate investors utilize their money to the fullest, from solo 401ks, SDIRAs. There's lots of little things that once you get into it, you can start to learn, and make your money work a lot smarter and work more for you than traditionally just letting it sit there on the couch and eat Cheetos in a traditional 401k. I mean, there's just a lot of things you can do once you become an entrepreneur, and it's really pretty exciting, and it's a fun ride. I mean, there is some risk, but it's a lot more fun. A lot more fun. Okay, guys, well, we're talking to Sean Pan. If you want to hear more about him, listen to his podcast, or maybe go to one of his meetups there in the Bay Area, just go to everythingrei.com. That's everythingrei.com. We're here at the end of our episode, but we're going to ask Sean if he wants to give us anything at all before we leave, any nuggets of wisdom we haven't already talked about, or anything that's just hot on your mind.
Well, thanks again for letting me come on your guys' show. Like you mentioned, if you guys are interested in learning more about investing in the Bay Area, check out my podcast, the Everything Real Estate Investing Show with Sean Pan. And yeah, like I said, if you guys are interested in investing in the Bay Area and you guys need a hard money loan, let me know.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Well, Tammy, take us away. This has been great. Thank you again, Sean. This has been wonderful.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean. And thank you again, Jennifer and Brian, for hosting today. I will have all of Sean's links in the show notes below. And if you do want to look us up, we are on social media at Leafy Legal. And you can find the podcast, Leafy Podcast, all over the place: iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you can listen to a podcast, we're there. So if you have any questions for me, or if you'd like to go ahead and comment on the show, just email me at Tammy, Tammy, at Leafy Legal Services, and I will get right back to you. So thank you all again, and have a wonderful day. Thanks again for listening. Bye-bye.
Attention real estate investors and entrepreneurs. Did you know that real estate investors are a primary target for lawsuits? According to the National Survey of the Court data, 25% of Americans risk being sued in their lifetime. However, if you are a real estate investor, you have a 95% chance of being sued in the next 20 years. Leafy Legal Services helps you protect your assets and strategically grow your business and wealth. Leafy Legal Services are experts at the Series LLC and Delaware Statutory Trust, two of the newest and most ideal legal structures for real estate investors. Leafy Legal Services have the most personalized and affordable solutions for setting up LLCs. Property owners are always at risk when it comes to their assets. Anonymity is so important. If you own just a rental house and you own your home, you have to protect yourself and your properties from any potential legal issues. Leafy Legal Services have the right solutions to make sure you are happy and feel secure. They offer cost-effective documentation that suits their clients' needs. For a free consultation and ebook, visit LeafyLegalServices.com. They are waiting to hear from you. LeafyLegalServices.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Don't wait. Take action now. LeafyLegalServices.com. Protect your assets, grow your business, and manage your wealth.